You know, this all, I just want to say, starts with our clients who find the power within themselves to make a change and to become the best people that they can. It continues with more than 240 lawyers that we have who donate their time and talent to help these people. It includes the Clemency and Pardons Board members, county prosecutors, public defenders, and parole board members who witness the change and support new dawn and a new day for these individuals. Along the way, other critical partners play a central role in helping promote change and empowerment. Community groups who help ease the reentry process and the transition process. Students, teachers, professors at high schools, colleges, law schools who are passionate about impacting the criminal justice system. And I just want to also say, you know, we love all our college students and the professors who are in here because those college students, they're the next attorneys to take your place. They're the next judges to take your seat. So we want to encourage them to continue that fight. And the generous supporters, including all of you who believe in our work. Together, we are changing lives, re-energizing relationships, building and strengthening communities. You know, something happened weird to me. Can we show the agenda on the screen? Tonight, I want us to recognize 7 years of success of the Seattle Clemency Project. We'll acknowledge the importance of partnerships through our 2023 Luminary Award recipient. The University of Washington Law Societies and Justice Program started and led by Professor Stephen Herbert and Department Chair Dr. Catherine Beckett. Can we get it? All right. We'll celebrate the power of Changemakers with our keynote speaker, Mr. Eugene Youngblood. He's a former SCP client, and you'll have a chance to donate and help SCP continue its important work during this evening's Raise the Paddle. I can't wait for that one. All right, now I'd like to recognize some sponsors and amazing people who support us. Leadership sponsors, Microsoft, Perkins Coie, the Lucky 7 Foundation, Advocate sponsor, Amazon, community sponsors, BN Builders, Davis Wright Tremaine, Foster Garvey, Carr Tuttle Campbell, Stoll Rives, T-Mobile, Friends of SCP, Cisco, Seyfarth Shaw. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here tonight. And enjoy your dinner. Before we go, did anybody hear about the person who was at KFC, I guess, and they were sitting down eating chicken and got a screw in their food? Yeah, this says something about it was a chicken with a hip replacement. Anyway, so I want you guys to... So hopefully everybody enjoy their food. We'll see you after dinner. Thank you. You know what's crazy is that I don't get a clap like that. So that tells me that, no, it's too late now. No, it just tells me that you are so scared of the judges right now. You just told on yourselves. Also, I'm going to welcome the Director of the Washington State Office of Public Defense, Mr. Larry Jefferson. The Seattle Clemency Project co-founder, the man, the myth, and the legend, Mr. John Zuloff. And our special guests, most of whom were former SCP clients, and some who are just good friends, who have survived and triumphed over a life of long sentences. Mr. Freddie Hampton, Mr. Bobby Lehman, keep clapping, Mr. Chris Larson, Mr. Anthony Godfrey, Mr. Brady Mitchell, Miss Alyssa Knight, Miriam Oliver, Dwayne Ray, Spencer Carter, Mr. Percy Levy, Michael Liddell, Kamati Carter, is he in here? Mr. Marcus Price, Ms. Gail Brashear, Mr. Theodore Rome, Ms. Cheryl Liddell, Mr. Eugene Youngblood, Mr. Gerald Hankerson, Mr. Anthony Powers, Mr. James Chambers, come on, Jason, Mr. Jason Pershing, and me. Oh man, you guys trying to make me cry. I love it, I love it. Listen, we're honored to have you all home with us, okay? And just so you know, these men are doing, and women are doing phenomenal things in the community. So whether you know it or not, they're the answers to the problems that we have in the community, and they're working to fix it. Who better to fix what was broken than the people that broke it? Your geniuses are right there. And I'm not saying that to be funny. That's real. They went to college to learn this. That's what prison was. It was college. Okay? So it's my privilege to welcome to the stage an incredible lawyer, a remarkable person. In addition to being an attorney at Foster Garvey, Mr. Paul here has been the president of Seattle Clemency Project's board of directors since 2021 and has volunteered his time with the organization as a board member, a pro bono attorney since 2016. He's a past board member of the South Asian Bar Association of Washington, the board member of the Seattle University Law Alumni Board, and advisory board member of this year's Luminary Award recipient, the University of Washington Law, Societies and Justice Department. So those of you who were here last year maybe remember that Paul and his beautiful wife, Rachel, had just gotten married. So we didn't get a chance to give a proper, round of applause for it. Not yet, not yet, not yet. I want you to help me, join me in welcoming my friend, Mr. Paul here.
So last year, I was here the night after me and my wife got married, and I guess since you mentioned it, tonight I'm keeping my fingers crossed that she doesn't go into labor. So we'll keep these remarks brief. So it's my job tonight to provide you a snapshot of the project. 2 years ago, the theme was coming home. We focused on the project's, building out the project's reentry support to provide our clients support in their transitions back into the community. Last year, the theme was building bridges. We were focused on collective action. How partnerships with the Law Societies and Justice Program, with local law schools, with the Northwest Immigrant Rights Project, the Office of Public Defense, and many others, how these partnerships allowed us to more effectively push forward our work with respect to second chance pathways. And this year we're celebrating Changemakers. The Changemakers that turned a coffee shop conversation into a force for progress in our state. Now, these Changemakers take many different forms. 7 years ago, they took the form of a small group of volunteers, not enough to fill one of these tables. And these volunteers, John Zuloff, Emily Zuloff, Jen Smith, these volunteers, they had witnessed the consequences of what happened to our communities when our state decided to abolish parole. And after we abolished parole in 1984, they saw the consequences of misguided policies that impacted our communities. That ultimately fueled a generation of mass incarceration. Now, 7 years ago, this group of volunteers, they didn't have the dollars, they didn't have the influence. They just had a lot of talent, and they had even more hope. You know, what they were able to do was take that hope and put together individual moments of justice. And they put together so many individual moments of justice that they disrupted the existing policy narrative that did not recognize reform, that did not recognize redemption. And those moments of justice, they led to this room full of our changemakers. Now, these changemakers, today, they've become the 290 volunteer attorneys that are dedicated to this mission. They are the 89 individuals that have been released early from their sentences that earned their freedom long before we were able to tell their stories. Our changemakers are our staff that work tirelessly to push forward our mission. Our changemakers are many in this room that use their privilege, that use their voice, that use their experience to push forward the mission, to tell our community the importance of redemption, of reform. Whether that's in their living room, whether that's in a boardroom, whether that's their neighbor, whether that's their constituents, the point is that many in this room use their voice, not just their legal skills, but their voice to spread the mission and to spread the message of what we're trying to accomplish here. Now, we have a lot to celebrate tonight, and we will celebrate a lot tonight. But this year, I feel compelled to remind everyone to not take this progress for granted. It's so easy to look at what's been accomplished and to begin to feel a sense of ease. But everyone in this room knows as soon as you stop pushing, that pendulum of progress just comes right back. It will swing right back. So tonight we'll celebrate that we've connected 240 clients with pro bono attorneys. We'll celebrate that we've prevented 1,100 years of incarceration. But tomorrow we need to remember that there are so many stories that have not been told, of individuals that have earned their freedom, that are sitting there, that are waiting. The truth of the matter is the project needs more board members, we need more volunteers, we need more attorneys, we need more dollars, we need more of you to raise your voice. We need you to pursue this mission with the same hope, with the same ethic that these group of volunteers did 7 years ago. Now, this community is familiar with our clemency work and our early release work, but over the last 5 years, SCP's Immigrant Post-Conviction Relief Program has been accomplishing amazing things. Together with the Northwest Immigrant Rights Project, we have offered pro bono assistance to those that were formerly incarcerated, that had served their time, that were now successful members of our community, contributing to our community, but then we're now facing risk of deportation. This program has saved 19 individuals from deportation. And now you'll get to hear just a few of those stories on the screen. Thank you so much, everyone.
I've known Chris for prison. I've been knowing him for years. This man had jumped in a lot of people's lane and changed their path. Even his smile is like our smile now.
I created a tech program that encompasses individuals that have been incarcerated, where before they had no tech skills, and now they're able to be systems engineers.
This man basically grabbed our hands and walked us and showed us how to look and change, how to make an effective change in your community. And you feel it and you see it, and it's happening every day.
Turns out that I wasn't a U.S. citizen after all these years, and so When I was released in prison, I received a order of removal, and so I was being deported to Vietnam. They were like, we really need to get the Seattle Clemency Project involved because they have helped with these deportation cases. And so that's kind of how I got connected with Luis over at the Clemency Project.
So in 2018, we got our very first client. The Clemency and Pardons Board actually called us saying, we think that you're in a position to get a volunteer lawyer for this man who is looking to get a pardon in order to avoid being deported.
Once we heard that the governor had signed the pardon, that's when Northwest Immigration Project kind of took over, and they went ahead and filed all the paperwork, did the briefings for the removal of my deportation.
My name is Kevin Hollins, and I'm a staff attorney at the Northwest Immigrant Rights Project in the Naturalization and Citizenship Unit. And so that means I'm generally working with people who have been longtime permanent residents who are seeking to apply to become citizens. A lot of times it's because people are trying to work or trying to do something in the community and they're worried about contact with immigration authorities. They always have to live with this fear that at any point ICE could come pick them up and determine that they're deportable and put them in a deportation proceeding.
Even at a young age, I could feel like the stress, like why is my mom always on the phone? Like why does she look sad all the time? One day she would bring me to the office with her with like all of my siblings, and I was just wondering like why do we keep going to these offices? Like who are all these people and everything? And one day my mom just like let us know we might get sent back to Cambodia, and like at that time it felt like something we couldn't control.
So I'm stressed. Even I laugh, still stressed. Sleep, sit down, everything, think about that, still stressed. Then that time I think I don't want anything. I just want my family together. I don't want anything.
We train the lawyers, we match them with the clients who we have already screened, and then we support them through the pardon process. The post-conviction relief lawyer hands the client back to the Northwest Immigrant Rights immigration lawyer, and then the Northwest Immigrant Rights Project lawyer takes the client back into immigration court and says, we have this pardon. And then the immigration court looks at it and says, okay, so the basis for the removal order was this conviction that has now been pardoned. So we can now terminate that order of removal.
Bruce and Jennifer and John and my lawyer, Henry, they will specialize for me.
Once we heard that the governor had signed the pardon, for me it was definitely, I would say, life-changing. Knowing that there's nobody like behind you trying to come after you, trying to deport you. It's something that I wish everybody could kind of experience.
Once they told us the good news, like it just felt so much easier to breathe.
Since I meet her, meet my attorney, I'm born again.
If we as a society are going to promote rehabilitation in any real way, then we have to promote that people live in the communities with the people that they love and who care for them.
You know, this work that we do is really, really, really important, okay? It's not just important for just the people that it's impacting, it's important for our whole society, for our whole community. And none of this would be possible without one individual who has donated so much of her time and given so much back to each and every last one of us, supporting us, making sure that we are the best that we can be so that we can represent and help other people and be the best. And so this is somebody I always say, and there's a few people in this room I've said, when I grow up, I want to be just like you. I want to be just like this person. This is what I mean. This is probably the most beautiful heart I've ever met in my life. And so I would like to bring up Jennifer Smith. I can speak to you.
Well, the truth is, I'm here to recognize somebody else. But thank you very much. That really, really felt good, actually. Somebody else who's responsible for what you just saw in that video. Seattle Clemency Project began as a grassroots organization, as Paul said, in 2016. And for the first 2 years, it was all volunteer run. And we've been so incredibly lucky to draw some talented people who are committed to our mission in a very deep way and who've been willing to work much harder than we can compensate them for in return. In addition to limited financial rewards when you come to work for SCP, those who came in the beginning to support SCP's core foundation quickly learned that SCP was not built by people who were already experts in the clemency and pardons board process. In fact, we knew very little about it. So we asked our staff to study the processes and build resources to ensure that people who cannot afford a lawyer could get review and relief from excessive sentences and harmful deportations. It takes bravery and conviction to build something new, and every person on our staff has become a builder. About 6 years ago, Louise Bush signed on as one of our volunteers, and she eventually became a staff member. Louise took what we learned from our very first pardon case in 2018 and went on to build a robust immigrant post-conviction relief program that is central to the organization's work today. Louise built critical partnerships with Northwest Immigrant Rights Project and assessed over 125 cases for post-conviction relief, built partnerships with the Washington Defender Association, and engaged over 50 lawyers in post-conviction relief processes. Her work helped secure the termination of deportation for 19 individuals, many of whom were refugees who came to this country decades ago. Louise did not do this with a team of people. It was all her, and what she built is groundbreaking and of great value to our community. Louise is going to stay engaged with the Seattle Clemency Project as a true volunteer to support our pardon work, but she's leaving the staff to restore and tend to other aspects of her very full life. SCP has asked a lot of Louise, and she gives her entire heart and soul to everything she does in life. We're deeply indebted to you, Louise, for all you've done for SCP and the whole community. I'm going to ask everyone to stand up and give Louise a round of applause.
So I would like to please introduce Ms. Jordan Casey from our Reentry Division for the Seattle Clemency Project. Jordan.
Hi, everybody. All right, so tonight, Seattle Clemency Project is honoring a program that embodies the very essence of what it means to champion the cause of justice. We celebrate the power of education and the remarkable impact of individuals and programs dedicated to empowering changemakers. It is a great honor that Seattle Clemency Project presents this year's Luminary Award to the University of Washington's Law, Societies, and Justice Program, also known to us former students as LSJ. Particularly, we want to recognize their commitment to fostering a greater understanding of justice, the methods used to achieve it, and the intricate roles that law and legal institutions play in shaping our society. As a proud LSJ alum, I have a very special connection to this program. In fact, my desire to attend the University of Washington was fueled entirely by the small hope that I would get to be a part of this program. As somebody who was impacted by incarceration from a very young age, I learned early on that our society uses incarceration, for solutions for social problems like mental illness and poverty, and I've long been concerned with the systemic issues our legal systems have created. I wanted higher education to prepare me for a career of making change and working towards a just society, rather than further contributing to the inequities our criminal punishment system creates. I knew that the legal system would play a big role in that change, but I wanted an environment that would allow me to critically analyze our government systems and legal practices. And LSJ provided me and my classmates that unique space in academia to evaluate the law as it's written versus its real-world implications. One of my proudest moments at LSJ was my participation in the Juvenile Parole Project, a practicum masterfully developed and supervised by Dr. Steve Herbert. Dr. Herbert, after observing parole hearings for individuals serving life sentences for offenses they committed before their 18th birthday, noticed a large discrepancy in the outcomes of individuals who had legal representation versus those who didn't. In collaboration with the Seattle Clemency Project, Dr. Herbert recruited a group of pro bono attorneys, many of them LSJ alum, to work with student teams to prepare individuals for those post-conviction hearings. The result was a significant step towards more just outcomes for juveniles sent to adult prison serving life sentences. Of this cohort, 13 individuals gained their freedom and have returned home. We have a few of them in this room here tonight. They've reunited with their families, they're parenting their children, they're starting small businesses, and they're making positive contributions to their communities. With us tonight, representing Law Societies and Justice undergraduate program, is Dr. Catherine Beckett. Dr. Beckett, yes. Dr. Beckett has made substantial contributions to educating the public and government stakeholders about the harmful effects of Washington's extreme punishment system. Impressively, her work has also spurred reform. Her groundbreaking research on the racially biased and arbitrary outcomes of death penalty cases here in Washington played a pivotal role in the abolition of death penalty here in Washington. Hitting closer to home for Seattle Clemency Project, her body of work on the overuse of life and long sentences in Washington state, including the overrepresentation of people of color, youth, and young adults in our prisons, directly informs Seattle Clemency Project's case screening, lawyer recruiting, and community education work. However, the LSJ department's impact extends far beyond academics. It extends to the empowerment and creation of changemakers. Remarkably, a third of the small staff who have ever worked for Seattle Clemency Project come from LSJ. Our esteemed board president, Paul here, also a proud LSJ alum. Over 80 of our dedicated student volunteers and interns come from the LSJ department, and their commitment is essential to our work. The theme that resonates most profoundly tonight is the empowerment of changemakers. The Luminary Award bestowed upon the University of Washington's Law Societies and Justice program celebrates their unwavering dedication to empowering individuals with the knowledge, passion, and skills needed to effect positive change in our society. It recognizes their pivotal role in shaping minds, advocating for justice, and creating a legacy of social transformation. Thank you for being the catalyst of change and for your unwavering commitment to justice. And now everybody can stand up and applaud for Dr. Catherine Beckett. Can I give you a hug? Yes, I'd love to.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's great to be here this evening with so many friends, colleagues, students, former students. It's a real pleasure. I'm delighted to be with people who are dedicated to the work of the Seattle Clemency Project and who make this work possible through their support and contributions. And especially the men and women who are finally free after spending decades behind bars, and in particular, those of you who are at the center of this organization's efforts to continue to help others to regain their freedom and to support them as they come home. These all are truly leaders in the efforts to realize a more just and humane system to justice in this state. What's important is not only what you do, though, it's how you do it. You are all brilliant attorneys, fundraisers, policy analysts, managers, community organizers, and administrators. But what I really admire is the deep relationships that you form with the people you serve, the partnerships you create with them and their families, and the community that you've built that is a source of strength for those who no longer wake up every day in prison, and a source of hope for those of you who have yet to regain your freedom. I'm in awe of your compassion and integrity, and I'm moved by your belief in the human capacity for redemption and change. So it's really a profound honor to accept this award on behalf of the Department of Law, Societies, and Justice. Thank you, Jen, and thank you to the board for bestowing this award on us. We're very grateful. And more than that, I want to thank you all for the amazing gift that you give to LSJ. So our mission at LSJ, as was alluded to earlier, is to help students understand law and human rights in their social context, sort of how they really play out on the ground. It's one thing to study those things in a classroom as abstract concepts, as facts and statistics, and it's very much a different thing to study in the way that we're able to through our work with you. The huge issues that we discuss in our classrooms can be overwhelming for our students. It's hard for them to grapple with the enormity of what they're learning, and they struggle to understand how they can make a difference. As chair of LSJ, it gives me so much pleasure to be able to offer the kinds of opportunities that we do together, to offer our students to be able to learn to put what they're learning into practice, to build relationships with people whose lives have been affected by the things we talk about in our classrooms. For our students, these experiences are empowering, they're exhilarating, and they're truly transformative. In thinking about what I wanted to say tonight, I reached out to a few of our alums who are in the room. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing your reflections with me about what it meant to participate in the Juvenile Parole Project. One of the students who responded, or former students, I should say, is Caitlin Labe. I don't know where Caitlin went off to. She's somewhere around. And she shared a reflection that I'd like to share in turn with you, if that's okay. She wrote, after 2 years in the Law Societies and Justice major, I joined the Juvenile Parole Project. At first, the concepts were abstract, reading literature on brain development, learning about infraction codes, and scrutinizing psychological evaluations. Then we listened to our first hearing, and suddenly the gravity of the program clicked. The ISRB had a history of ignoring maturation, which meant that people who deserve to get out don't. Our mission was simple on its face but complex in its nature, to work alongside eligible men and women to help them tell their stories so that they have the best shot of earning release. In the 2 years that I was involved in the program, I worked with 2 petitioners, Jeffrey and Matt. Last May, Jeffrey went home. In less than 4 weeks, Matt will go home. Working alongside Jeffrey and Matt taught me countless things about the Department of Corrections, the ISRB, and the reentry process. It also taught me how to hold complexity, to truly understand the experiences that lead to crimes, the importance of mitigation and mercy, the vulnerability that incarceration creates, and that people are so much more than their worst mistake. I can confidently say that the Juvenile Parole Project solidified my devotion to and passion for this work. It was a pivotal opportunity and the best part of my undergraduate experience. I know my classmates in the program agree. So thank you for sharing that, Caitlin. And to the other students who were also moved and transformed by the experience of participating in the Juvenile Parole Project and the opportunity to work with the Seattle Clemency Project. And to Steve Herbert, my colleague, and my other colleagues who work so hard to create these kinds of opportunities for our students. On a more personal note, I'm deeply grateful for the opportunity to work collaboratively in doing research with partners like all of you in this room, to work together to bring compassion, humanity, equity, and light to places where it is very badly needed. It's an honor to do this work and to be part of this fabulous community that the Seattle Clemency Project is helping to build. So my deepest thanks to Jen and Lainey and Eleanor and John and Caitlin and Anthony and Willa and everyone at the Seattle Clemency Project for your generosity in working with us, students, faculty alike, to make these kinds of experiences possible. And thanks again for your ongoing partnership and for honoring LSJ with this award this year. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for those empowering words. A true change maker, truly helping law students right now become attorneys, just like some of the attorneys in here. Powerful. And not just somebody who just goes through law school, but people who are actually lawyers and making an impact, like Paul here. They're making an impact. So I'd like to bring up Ms. Jennifer Smith once again to introduce our next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlton. My name is Jennifer Smith. I'm the co-founder and executive director of the Seattle Clemency Project. And it is my great honor to introduce a very special person, Eugene Youngblood, as our keynote speaker. And I'm going to just take a few moments to talk about how we were fortunate to meet Eugene in the first place, because that meeting and that first year of experience really helped define who we are today. We're just a few months away from Seattle Clemency Project's 8th anniversary. And when I think about what we've achieved, the community of outstanding lawyers who donate their time and emotional lives to this mission, I feel very proud to be a part of it, and so incredibly grateful to every staff member, board member, and volunteer who has worked tirelessly to achieve the results Paul highlighted earlier. In our first year, back in 2016, we made the single most important decision the organization has ever made, which was to commit to interviewing each applicant for our volunteer lawyer placement program in person in prison before placing them with a lawyer. Our intention was to elevate the level of service we were offering to people in prison by sitting down with them, hearing them, and basically showing up for them before handing them off to a volunteer lawyer. But what was supposed to be an extra benefit for the people inside ended up being an education for us. That first year, we had about 25 people we needed to meet. At that time, SCP was just 3 volunteers, me, John, and his daughter, Emily. Emily and I took half the people's cases, and John took the other half, and we traveled to prisons all across the state. And we prepared ourselves mentally to encounter people who were, we thought, going to be hopeless and depressed, because the people we were going to meet had been sentenced during the most punitive period of punishment in our state's history. People who were sent to adult prison as kids. People given life sentences under the 3 strikes law. And people who were sentenced when judges had very little discretion. Every person we met had been there for at least 20 years. And since Washington abolished parole in 1984, no one had been through an early release process to assess their rehabilitation. From our vantage point, their situation was hopeless. But the people we met were not hopeless. Quite the opposite, actually. The people we met were grounded, powerful, and striving. When we got back together with John after our visits, Emily and I would say things to him like, "John, you are not going to believe it. We met the best person on the planet." And John would say, "I don't think so, because I just met the best person on the planet." And fortunately, many of those people are here in the room tonight. People who went against the grain of the negative prison culture, built peer-led programs when they could not access programming because of the length of their sentences, educated themselves by reading books. One person read 500 books, gained sobriety, engaged in healing circles, and so much more. We marveled at the stories of how people inside not only survived their hopeless sentences, but were making meaning of it. What we were bearing witness to was so much bigger than the rehabilitation we needed to show for the clemency process. The men and women we met with had answers to questions that governments ask, researchers ask, spiritual leaders ask, like, how do I transform my pain instead of transmitting it onto others? How do I accept responsibility for the harm I've done? How do I carry harm done to me without letting it define who I am? How do I make amends? How do I forgive? The history of mass incarceration in this state is very clear. Due to the tough on-crime era policies, only 7 countries in the world have higher incarceration rates than in Washington state. And in that way, the people we were meeting, who would be the first to accept responsibility for the impact their crimes had on others, were collectively victims of excessive punishment. But what impacted us so deeply during those first visits, and what has been reinforced through dozens and dozens of visits since, is that the same collective of people who have borne the brunt of mass incarceration have used their experiences to transform themselves in life-affirming ways. They have made use of their trauma as a source of knowledge and power. They are the most resilient, most aware of our human capacity for change, and the most knowledgeable about how an individual and society can make amends, heal, and transform into something better. They have transformed from being victims to powerful agents of change. The Seattle Clemency Project's pro bono lawyer program has infused over $11 million of free legal services into the prison system to ensure that the collective of people who have borne the brunt of mass incarceration or lived under the threat of deportation for decades have a way to get back home and show people in power how we can reform our justice system. SCP works to ensure that the constant education we receive from our clients, it's a constant education. We learn every day from Marcus and Anthony and Blaze, is built into the fabric of our organization. In every space we occupy, we make clear that when it comes to reform, those who have survived mass incarceration hold the answers for renewal and restoration. And when we have a platform for them to express their wisdom with community, we invite them to share. And to that end, we have invited Eugene Youngblood to share his wisdom with you tonight. Eugene was one of the first people we met in our early years of prison visits. He co-founded the University Beyond Bars program in the Monroe Prison with Carol Estes, and was a leader and mentor to countless people in the prison system. After Emily and I met with Eugene at Coyote Ridge Prison, we matched him with a volunteer lawyer, Paul Here, who you heard from earlier tonight. Eugene was given a de facto life sentence when he was just 18 years old. After serving 29 years, he was released through clemency. Since Eugene's release in 2021, he's been working hard to heal community and reform the criminal legal system in his roles as a community engagement specialist for the Freedom Project and member of the Black Prisoners Caucus. In those roles, he attends court hearings to advocate for adolescents and emerging adults to ensure the reality of their lives and humanity is seen. He advocates for reform in the legislature, engages in healing groups with people impacted by crime, and goes into juvenile facilities to connect with incarcerated kids, and so much more. He's also the father to 2 adult children and a guiding light and friend to too many people to mention. It is my honor to hand this over now to Eugene, my teacher and my friend.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jen. Man, whew. So I got to have a mic. I can't stand in front of the podium. They didn't make this for regular sized people. So, so I get to carry the mic. And no, before I start, you'll come to spaces all the time and you see folks start in the ways in which they want to start. You heard Carlton here today, and he started with the land acknowledgement, like that was important, and it was important for us to acknowledge. Well, there's something that's really important to me that I try to normalize everywhere I go, and that is I really want to talk about folks' emotional labor. Like emotional labor is something that's really important to me. It's something that I really understand and I really stand on and I really appreciate. So just for me, just take a moment for yourself and just think about how emotional it's been tonight, how emotional it's going to be throughout the rest of the night, and just sit with that. And I just want to thank you for being here with us and sharing those raw emotions and stuff, because I know it comes at a cost, right? It comes at a cost. Nothing is for free. Everything comes at a cost, even your emotional labor that you spend to share here with us today. I really just want to say thank you for that and how much I appreciate that. I know the value of my words, so I don't just say anything. I know the value of my presence, so I don't just go anywhere. But tonight I've decided to be here with you. And what's important is that you've also decided to be here with me. And so I hope that when you leave here tonight that you will believe and know in your heart that this was time well spent, that this was a great investment of your time, and that you came here tonight. So now we'll begin by simply just talking about how I believe in magic, right? Like I really believe in how things happen and beautiful and love, and that's where my heart is. I lead with my heart, which sometimes means I get my feelings hurt, right? So people see me cry or they'll cuddle me and try to hold me in space. And it's funny because you think about what my past has been and who I am, and especially my stature, and it doesn't really go with that, right? But if you know me, you know that's who I am and that's what I do. And it's not just, these aren't things that I do, this is who I am, right? It's a totally different thing. And so I say that to be, it's okay though when I'm sad, because you know why? All that means to me is I'm just a real human being having a human experience, right? And so there was a time where I didn't believe in myself or the human experience. So now to know that I can even experience sadness and feel freely to express it felt good. I cried today when I seen Emily. I seen Emily Zuloff. I haven't seen her since 2016, and it was so beautiful and wonderful to see her and be in this space again with her. Always happy to see Jennifer. And like she said, there was a part in there when she said she came to see me in the institution that I need to tell you for impact, just so you really understand what happened between us. Like they came and they needed to see 7 people. I was the first one of 7 people. They had an hour and a half to see 7 people. They stayed with me for an hour. Like, let that sit with you for a minute. They stayed with me for an hour. Like, they wouldn't leave. And when they left, they was determined to make sure that they did what they needed to do to get me with a lawyer. And then when I say magic, look how tonight unfolds for all of us. The lawyer they got me was Paul here, right? Just think about that. And now here I am today, here he is, right? And then over the course of my incarceration, one of the biggest things in my mainstay has been the Black Prisoners Caucus and how I have grown to be the man I am today for the elders of my community who held on to me when I was there and didn't give up on me and pushed me and continued to pull me into the great space where I can grow and become the man I was meant to be. And so for that, we have Miss Janet Preston here, one of the great volunteers from the Black Prisoners Caucus, who also helped me grow and sponsor and share so much love with me, right? And just loved on me. And so also, over the course of that, you just had Dr. Catherine Beckett, the professor up here, and do her thing. And I'm also LSJ alum. I went through the LSJ program myself when I was inside. So when she talks humbly about the LSJ program and she says that, hey, we take the young people and we put them in spaces and we have them where they can really understand and appreciate real life, she brought them inside the prison and had us going to mixed enrollment classes where half the class was prisoners and half the class was UW students. And we was in there with the young people really interacting and really engaging with them and really learning from them and they was really learning from us, right? And so when you talk about the Clemency Project and how it started and its humble beginnings, you think about the original mission, and to kind of synthesize it would be to say that they really wanted to put people who had been marginalized without representation to have representation, because for so long people were going through the clemency process without no representation, and they were getting knocked down. Like, no, next time. Nobody was getting none. So they got some lawyers, and they needed to give folks some good representation with some great lawyers to put that together. Like, that's how it started, right? But like everything in life, there comes a time for a pivot, right? There comes a time for a pivot when something changed. And when something changed for the Clemency Project, what happened was, instead of just connecting folks with a lawyer, right, they just started connecting with people. They started connecting with people's humanity. They started to see people for who they were. And they started to be able to allow people to have hope in a place that was once filled with hopelessness, right? And so just think about the magic of that now we're not even here to necessarily find a lawyer. We're here to connect with your humanity. That's what we're here to do. We're here to see you for who you are with the intrinsic value that you have, right? And just think what that can do for somebody in their spirit, right? So in understanding this, I just want to talk about how the theme tonight is Changemakers, and we talked a lot about the lawyers, and we know that the hard work that they do and the stuff that they put in and the willingness to dedicate hours upon hours upon hours. We talked about folks who were incarcerated and the work that we had to do for our own selves and do stuff, right? And so who are the change makers, right? So you might leave me to believe, I might say it's the folks inside, right? Like, we're the real change makers. You might hear other folks say it's the lawyers, right? It's the lawyers. Those are the ones who are the real change makers. But I'm here today to talk to you about and help you understand and really appreciate that the change makers are everyone here sitting here today. Everybody at the table. You are at the table with fantastic people, with brilliant people, with amazing people. Everywhere I go and I have an opportunity to speak, I remind people that the brilliance is always in the room. I have the ability and the luxury of being able to stand here and talk to you, but the brilliance is right there with you. Don't leave tonight without talking to somebody who's right next to you, without talking to somebody who's at another table, because if you don't, you're going to miss out on real brilliance. You're going to miss out on connecting with a real change maker, and you're going to miss out on the fundamental understanding of knowing that relationship is more important than resource, right? And so irrespective of how many resources we have or what we have to offer, what is someone going to do when real life happens, right? What is that? Who they going to call in the middle of the night? You can't call resources. You have to call a real person. And that's what the Clemency Project has done. And that's what real change makers are. And that's you and you and you. It's everybody here, right? This is the fundamental standing of where we're at and where we stand on. And you'll be surprised at how far that something as small as like love and care and consideration can take you, right? And how beautiful that is and how that really comes to be and how we understand. And so I just say that I don't know if I should be proud or if I should be ashamed to say that I'm a part of the Apple cult, right? Like that I got Apple products, right? Like, I don't know if I should be happy or sad, right, about that. But the truth is what it is, right? That's what it is. So I just want to know, like, how many people have done a software update just recently, right? And I'd say I'm a part of the Apple cult because I don't have to do it. I plug my phone in at night, it updates by itself. You know, I don't got to do that. Your iOS program, right? The operating system. And I ask that because it's my personal belief system that your personal belief system and your personal philosophy should always be subject to change as your knowledge base expands. So the more you know, the more you should change where you stand at firmly. At 20, I had a certain belief system and I stood strong on that. At 30, it adjusted a little bit. At 40, it adjusted a whole lot. And now I'm 50, I see that, man, I can't even believe I used to do some of the stuff I used to do or think some of the stuff I used to think, oh, man, this is crazy. And so what happens is you got to update your system, right? And so when is the last time you updated your system? And I'm not talking about your phone, I'm talking about your belief system. And I hope while you're here today, you're allowing your system to be updated. I hope that you're allowing your system to be updated with new information so that you see people across from you and you see people around you and you know how wonderful and beautiful they are just for being who they are, for nothing else than just having that. And so I end this today. I just want to share and kind of summarize things with something that happened to me just yesterday, right? Like I had another ending I was going to say, and then something powerful happened to me yesterday. I was leaving the mall, and I walked outside, and when I got by my car, there was a young lady right there, and she was obviously in distress. Like I was looking at her face, she was looking like she was going to cry. I didn't know what to do. I'm forever helpful, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Can I help you? And she was like, yeah, please. And I was like, okay, what can I do for you? And she was like, I think my battery is dead. Do you have any jumper cables? And I was like, fuck. And people who know me are really laughing because I can't fix nothing. I can't do nothing with my hands. But I'm the kind of person that always wants to help. So because I couldn't help, I was like, man, well, what can I do? So okay, only thing I could do is try to bring some levity to the situation, right? So I try to bring some humor. So she was like, hey, do you got some jumper cables? And I was like, look, I quit jumper rope in 1983, but I was on the double Dutch team. She was like, no. She was laughing, and she was like, no, I'm not talking about jumping rope. I'm talking about like jumper cables to start my car. And I was like, listen, I got AAA, but I don't have no jumper cables. And so we're sitting there talking, and this gentleman walks up, and he's like, hey, and he pulls this thing out of his pocket. It's about as big as my phone. And I was like, what is this? And he has some little cords hanging out, and he was like, this is a portable charger. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, it's a portable charger. You just put it right here, plug it up, and boom, like magic, the car starts up, right? And so he put it right there, put it on, charged it up. And I was like, man, this is incredible. This is amazing. Okay, tell me about this. And he's like, man, everybody should have one of these. It's a portable charger. Like everybody needs this. So when you go around, if anybody's in distress, you can help them, right? And if you need it for your own self, you got it, right? Okay, so what's my point, right? We're here tonight. We're talking about Changemakers. This is the Seattle Clemency Project. What is my point here? So my point is that all of us, every last person in this room, has a portable charger. And it's your heart. And everybody here has an opportunity to charge somebody else and plug in to somebody else. So before you leave here tonight, and as you sit here right now, I just want to ask you to ask yourself, what are you doing with your portable charger? Who are you charging, right? How are you making your change in your world? How are you impacting it? And we all have the opportunity to charge someone. And just ask yourself again, who are you charging? And with that said, I'll close. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. I grabbed my phone a minute ago, then I had to put it back in because it's an Apple. I got nervous when he said that. I was great call resources. I wanted to see Siri call resources. So before I get going, there's somebody else too who is a change maker. Very much a change maker. Somebody who inspired me from the Seattle Clemency Project. When she came to the Seattle Clemency Project, she came with open arms. When I came to the Seattle Clemency Project, I felt like I got a hug from everybody, and they never stopped hugging me. And this lady, oh my gosh, she's the best hugs. Okay? She's got the hugs because you know it's coming from her heart. She's doing exactly what Eugene says. She's charging everybody. And this is her. This is her. And that's Miss Jan Ballot. I'd like to call you up to the stage, please, Jan. Thank you, thank you. All right, all right. She said, so I just want you guys to know that, so normally I just kind of do this all off the top of my head, but Jan wrote this script for me, and she said, hey, that wasn't on a script. Jan, look, this wasn't on a script either. So we're going to finish this out my way. So I'm going to ask a few people to stand up because I want to say something. When I came to the Seattle Clemency Project in 2017, some people came to meet with me. Emily, beautiful Emily, would you please stand up? And your father too, John. Jennifer, would you stand up? They believed in me. They believed in me enough, and I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm gonna talk about you. But they believed in me, and I joined the board. First I was like, what, you want me to be on the board? What are you talking about? And when I first got on the board, it was all attorneys there, and everybody was talking over my head because I didn't understand nothing about law except for you're guilty. That's all I knew. And so, but I had a vision too, and they listened. And now the Seattle Clemency Project does something different than the Department of Corrections. And I'm not mad at the Department of Corrections, just like I told somebody else earlier, it's a business, so we can't be mad at them. But we do something different, and different than all other organizations. We actually get attorneys to help people come home, and we don't leave them. We find reentry services for them, then we mentor them to help them become better than they were when they went in, help them transition mentally to be somebody better. Now we have, is it over 90 people now that's free? We have homeowners, we have people who are managers, supervisors, homeowners, business owners, all this. These are people who we're saying that everybody inside is not a bad person. Everybody inside is not a bad person. They just have to be given a chance and an opportunity and a direction to do something different than they were raised to do. And we get a chance to be able to do that all the time. And with the help, I'm going to ask my brother to come up here. Mr. Anthony Powers, the Director of Reentry for the Seattle Clemency Project. This is Suge Knight #1.
Big Suge.
And so what we're getting ready to do now, we're going to switch up things. You see me just tear everything up. And Jan right now is going crazy right now. I can't even look over at her.
Let me say that before you.
Okay. Go ahead, you talk. I can't look at her.
Nah, just, I was sitting back and I was thinking, man, I really wanted to say something meaningful, I mean, a lot of times we do the raise the paddle, and it's a feel-good moment. It's a good cause to give to. It's a tax write-off for some people, but there's a reality to all of this stuff. I was just in Alabama a few weeks ago, and I had the opportunity to meet Brian Stevenson. And he said, with all the progress, he said, I was getting so happy. But he said, then everything started going backwards. He said, it's as if mercy and grace itself were on trial. They had all these people getting out of prison across the country, me being one of them. I had a life sentence. And now they're reversing decisions that led to this. After all of us got out and was proving them wrong of why they gave us those sentences in the first place. Right? So he said it's as if grace and mercy itself are on trial. And when you really look at it, that's the history of our country. After slavery, Reconstruction, let's do some good stuff. Then black codes. More progress, Jim Crow. More progress, mass incarceration. More progress, is the tide gonna stop? How about we break the pendulum? How about we break the pendulum and invest in things that are gonna go about doing it like that, rather than have this ebb and flow back and forth in this country, saying maybe our grandchildren will change stuff. I know this, and a lot of people who are in prison with us know this. When we stood up in the prison system, we say we want to change things now, where people were saying it would take generations. I went to Walla Walla when they had a major riot or staff assault once every 4 to 6 weeks for 6 years straight. And within 5 months, it was the most peaceful prison in Washington State. Why? Because I didn't say, oh, it's going to take time. I said, nah, man, we can get together. We can do something different. So instead of just feeling good in the moment, instead of just plugging up your heart, which, I love that analogy, plug up your credit card to that card reader and invest in something that's going to make a difference, right? Because we really need to bring about some true changes. Another point is think about everything that you love doing. You like spending time with family, like going for a drive, like going out to eat, like going on vacation. What you give today is an investment that will allow somebody else to do those things too. Somebody who would otherwise not have that opportunity. I remember wondering if my mom was going to live to see me get out. Your investment today will allow somebody's mama and somebody's daddy see them get out of prison before their mom or dad dies. Will allow somebody to be able to go to their loved one's funeral and not be in an orange jumpsuit and shackles if their family can afford to get them to there, because their family has to pay for it. And most people in prison come from socioeconomically depressed backgrounds, which is why you need the Seattle Clemency Project and other volunteer lawyers, because they can't afford to get a lawyer themselves. So think about that before we raise the paddle.
Well, so just as it was talked about earlier, there's thousands of people, as Paul here said earlier, thousands of people whose stories aren't told yet. There's probably about 5,600 people, or 56,000, I believe, refugees in King County right now, Cambodian refugees right now, okay, that need the support too as well. There's people that come home and need emergency assistance because they get sent out of prison with $40 gate money. That's it. Bye. Go. You got a lot of decisions to make. You got to eat. You need clothes. What? Resort back to that which you know best. No, we don't want that. So we want to be able to help people. Kevin, you look just like Keanu Reeves. Sorry.